Hey, welcome back to another episode of the MindShare Podcast. This is where we share strategies and insights to help you work smarter, build stronger relationships, and create the success that you deserve. This show is proudly sponsored by Kit's Keep in Touch Systems, your ultimate marketing and lead generation CRM. REM, Real Estate Magazine, Canada's trusted source for real estate news and insights. And Revel Realty, redefining real estate with bold marketing, cutting-edge training, and a culture that empowers success. Learn more about our sponsors and download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle at mindshare101.com. And while you're there, discover how our full range of services can help take your business to the next level. From our one-to-one coaching for personalized growth to the MindShare Collective group coaching for community-driven success, momentum training to build unstoppable progress, and keynote speaking to inspire and motivate your team. We are here to help you elevate your game. And while you're at it, learn more about joining the revolution to experience the bold new way that real estate is being redefined. Today's episode is number 325, and we are diving into getting social smart to help you turn posts into profits. She's the CEO and co-founder of Katie Lance Consulting. She is also a nationally known keynote speaker at conferences and events. For the past 10 years, she's been working with real estate agents and brokers to help them get smarter about how to use social media to grow their business. Her specialty is in helping real estate agents and brokers achieve big results using social media without spending a ton of time. She's also the author of the best-selling book, Get Social Smart, and the founder of Get Social Smart Academy. And she's been named one of the most 100 influential people in real estate by Inman News. Joining me on this episode of the MindShare Podcast is special guest, CEO, and co-founder of Katie Lance Consulting, Katie Lance. Katie, welcome back to the MindShare Podcast.
Hey, David. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be back.
Oh my God, likewise. It's always good to talk to you. Always good to see you. And I got to ask you a question for a second. I was reading the bio and I'm like 10 years. I almost tripped over that because I'm like 10 years? It's got to be longer than 10 years.
Yeah, I probably need to update the bio a little bit.
Okay, cool. I was like it threw me off. I'm like, no way. I've known her probably 10 years by now. And I know you were kicking ass long before that. So no, it is awesome to see you. Awesome to have you on the show. And I thank you for making the time for us today.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be back and to have a great conversation. So thanks for having me.
No, it's always thank you, and it's always a good conversation for sure. I took the liberty today of sort of playing off of like your brand and saying, the title here being "Get Social Smart: From Posts to Profits in Business," and it's hard to believe today in 2025, but a lot of people are still struggling to find their way when it comes to social media, like what to post, where to post, how to keep up, or how not to worry about keeping up, that whole game of keeping up with the Joneses. But I mean, there really are still so many questions out there. So I figured today we together could help simplify all of it and help everybody tuned in get even more social smart.
Sounds great.
So
let's do it.
Yeah, I'm going to come right out and ask you, because I think, it's a big question that everybody, always has for themselves, even personally, and like where to be. But like, what's your favorite platform right now and why? Because, and I got to tell you, by the way, I've had a Twitter or X account for years. I really never did anything with it. And every once in a while, when I'm like watching a hockey game or I see something political and I just want to like rant about something, I usually bite my tongue.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like X just gives you that opportunity to do it. But I still like remind myself to bite my tongue. So I've sort of like look at it a little bit more, but I'm still just, funny enough, in 2025, I'm just finally starting to immerse myself in Twitter. But anyways,
that's awesome.
Back to that question. What is your favorite platform?
Well, I guess it depends on what I'm using it for. I would say for entertainment, TikTok for sure. It's I could probably binge watch TikTok forever. I've learned all about my favorite topics like Broadway shows and all kinds of wonderful stuff. It's just, it's for me, it's more of an entertainment sort of instead of binging Netflix, I'll often binge watch some TikTok content. But I think that's also related to how I think about business, because business wise, I still find Instagram and Facebook are still two of my biggest platforms in terms of where my community is, in terms of where people are kind of hanging out, so to speak, in the real estate space. And I found that a lot of times what happens on TikTok first often sort of filters into what we see on Facebook and Instagram. And so it's been fun to kind of get sort of a eagle eye view to see, what's coming down the pipeline. And I think TikTok really sort of revolutionized how we think of short form video, over the last few years. So it's been fun. They're all like your kids. They're all similar but different, So yeah, and I can't forget YouTube. I'm loving YouTube also. So
yeah, so I know, and you're kind of like on a variety of different platforms. We're actually going to talk to that. But I think I would double down on the whole TikTok thing. Like it really is a lot of entertainment value.
Yeah,
and like the most random stuff. And
totally.
I also have noticed that both Facebook and Instagram's followed suit now from what TikTok did. Whereas the minute you go to try to exit the app, it's like, we're going to show you one more video. And you're like, no, I wanted to exit. And it's like, we'll show you one more video.
Exactly.
And then finally lets you out. And you're like,
exactly.
7 minutes later.
Exactly. 27 minutes later. Yeah.
Like it gets bad, but I totally know what you mean though. There's definitely entertainment value there. So let's say this then. Let's say like I'm already posting, or maybe even like I don't post at all. Because it's wild how many people are still trying to figure out. And I'm not saying anybody there, like for people trying to figure it out. Oh my God, what's wrong with you? Moreover, we know people are still shy. We know there's still a fear around it. We know there's still people that just don't get it. But whether I fall into the category of I'm posting and I want to be better, or I'm really not there yet, I want to leverage social media to help me build the MindShare. And assume that I am ready and open ears to implement whatever I learned today. What would you say is like my first step in choosing the platform? And we're going to go deeper on this, but I'm starting like really surface level because again, I know there's people out there that can really use help in this conversation that you and I are having today around like, okay, what can I do to jumpstart myself right now? So again, like what's the first step? Is it choosing the platform? Is it coming up with content? Where do I start, Katie?
Yeah, I probably would say the platform is usually one of the first things to think about. I mean, I kind of have mixed feelings about this, honestly, because you've heard me say this before. Social media is rented ground. We don't own it.
Yep.
So I do think it's important to look at the platforms, but I also think it's important to think about your content and creating a content plan that sort of goes with you wherever you go.
We're going to go to that in a few minutes.
What I mean?
Yeah.
But to actually answer your question about like, as far as a specific platform, I think one of the first things anybody could do is reach out to their database and find out where people are hanging out. Because I think a lot of times we just assume like, oh, my people aren't here or they're not here or whatever it might be. And I recommend this all the time inside of our Get Social Smart Academy. Like send an email to your database and say something like, we are working on serving you better with our content on social media. And we're just wondering, where are you spending time these days? Is it Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, none of the above? And they will tell you. And sometimes you're right on where you think people are and sometimes you're not. And so that's kind of a good barometer because I think you should be primarily where your people are, your community, so to speak. So
for sure. Well, we know like in the first step of really any marketing campaign that we build, the first thing we need to do is identify audience. Sure. Right. Who are the people we're talking to? Who are the people we're trying to connect with? So that makes perfect sense. Now I like that idea about the email. Would you do that as like you type out the email, you send it, or would you do like a Google form? Like, hey, I'm doing a quick survey about social media. Here's what I'm curious to know. Do you mind taking like 3 minutes to answer this for me?
I'd probably just do an email because I feel like a survey is like, it could be a 2-hour project for somebody making a survey and it looks nice. And I'm just like, I'm living in this world of like, done is better than perfect. Like, just get it out.
Totally.
Right. Like ship it email. So I think you could be fancy and you could, do a Google form. Not that that's super fancy, but
no, but okay. So there's something there. So it's like, put it out there to people, ask them and see how people reply and see what they say. Yeah. Like I know sometimes for me, especially on TikTok, I actually on the content that I see when I'm scrolling, I don't see a lot of my people.
Sure. Yeah.
However, if you go into your notifications and you're like, oh, so-and-so is following you, or you do, specifically go into search like Katie Lance, and it's like, bang, there you are. You're like, oh, wow. Like, I don't know why we haven't connected on TikTok yet.
Sure.
So yeah, no. Okay. Good question. So then the next question would be, because a lot of people ask this all the time, is once I kind of determine like my audience and we think about the platform, do I need a business account? Do I need just a personal account? Should I work from just one account? Do I need all these accounts? Like, it's just a lot to handle here, Katie. What do we do?
Right. Well, I think less is more, honestly. I think the more you start adding and adding and adding, it's just a lot. And it's not necessarily an easy question because every platform is different. Like Facebook wants you to have a personal profile and a business page. Instagram, you can kind of get away with just having one account. TikTok, kind of the same thing. Like everyone is a little bit different, So I think it sort of depends on platform to platform. I just think keep it simple. If we're talking Facebook specifically, I do think you need a personal and a business, and there's a lot of crossover because real estate is a personal business, right? If we're just talking about Instagram, I think you can just have one. I just have one business account, but for me, my content is kind of 50-50, and that works in the ecosystem of Instagram. So I think you got to pick a couple platforms, like I said, where you enjoy being, where your clients are, and then go from there.
Yeah. You know what? I would agree with that. Like my Instagram, I keep it as one specific account. I don't worry about teetering between different accounts. I'd say TikTok, YouTube, they're all the same. And then Facebook, I guess from the day that we sort of started it, however many years ago, I've got, the two different businesses between Kits and MindShare. So I've got accounts for both of those. And then I've also got me as like a human being, and literally my human being page, like David, it's just David and family and sports and, fun and all that stuff. Whereas the business, from a Facebook perspective, I've kept very business. You'll see more of the reels and the videos and the tips and tricks for your business and whatnot. But it's like, again, I take both of those worlds and I blend them into Instagram so that it's just one spot.
Yeah.
And I would say very, very forward, like that's where my favorite platform happens to be is Instagram from a posting and an engagement perspective.
Yeah, me too.
I will say Facebook, as it's become very cumbersome, and I find it interesting that they are able to decipher between when I put up a personal post on my Instagram that they know it and they're like, oh, we're going to throw that on your personal Facebook, and you're like, well, that was pretty good. That was good, Mark. You did a nice job there,
Right.
But again, for me, it is like, it's that whole thing of having all these different places to go.
Yeah.
And I know for a lot of people, again, who might be a little bit more on the brink of breaking through their social media habits and what they're going to do and the content, the consistency, that it can be very overwhelming and confusing to choose, like, where do I got to be?
Right.
So as we say that, then that naturally takes us to, the question of like, how much content should I be producing weekly? Because we've heard, you got to go, 4 times a day. And then it's like, nah, you just got to be there daily. And then some people are like, once a week is okay.
Right.
And I know that yesterday's answer to, today's answer versus tomorrow's answer might change.
Right.
How do you teach people on this, Katie? What do you say to people on that front?
Yeah. I mean, part of it depends on where you're at. I think if you are at the beginning stages, the hardest part is just starting. But, and if you're more advanced, then there's a little bit of a different conversation happening. So look, I've been saying this for years. I think it's still true. And it's all about consistency. So you've got to get yourself into a rhythm. I think at least once a week, you need to be posting some sort of helpful content. Now you might be posting about your listings or your open houses, or you might be celebrating your clients, but at least once a week, have some sort of helpful tip about what's going on in real estate, something you're maybe you're dealing with, something you're passionate about, something just helpful. I've been kind of moving away from, instead of saying educational, to just share a helpful tip. Can you share one helpful tip, which ideally should be you on camera, like a quick 30-second, 60-second reel that you can share to Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or whatever couple platforms that you're on, but at least once a week. And the way I look at it is like, pick a day and stick with it. So, maybe it's Tip Tuesday or Monday market update. It doesn't matter the day, but pick a day and stick with it, because it's going to help you develop a habit. Once it becomes a habit, it's just part of your business. It's part of what you do. And then you can back it up and go, okay, well, if I'm going to post a video every Tuesday, that means I need probably 4 or 5 for the month. Okay, could I carve out like an hour to record a bunch of those really quick? Yeah, right. So I think that's one piece of it. If you're already doing that and you're not getting a whole lot of results, then you need to step it up, because honestly, I do think now in 2025, it's harder than ever. There's more noise, there's more people, there's more content, and more video, more content. Honestly, like, I think we think, oh, people are going to see it. People don't see it. You and I publish so much content, and I think you and I, and we're friends, and we probably are scratching the surface of what we are actually seeing from each other. So,
it's true, for sure. No joke. Like TikTok, it was that the other day. I was like,
yeah.
I
went to find your account, and I was like, oh, there's David on TikTok.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Like, I reposted one of your videos the other day. I was like, that was really good. Why am I not seeing it?
And but isn't that something though? It's like, and we believe, and that's the other thing too, is you came back, and we'll come back to measuring and like, understanding what success really looks like on this stuff. But I mean, it's that thing of going, we think everybody heard it. We think everybody saw it.
Yeah.
And then we wonder, like, why didn't anybody say anything? Because the chances are not as many people heard it or saw it as you think they did. It's just because there's a ton of noise. You just nailed that. It's so true.
Yeah.
Right now, as you come back to the tip, post a tip. What if I'm like at the gym working out and it's got nothing to do with what I do for a living? Should I post a tip about working out, or if I like baseball, you like baseball, should I post a tip about baseball? Or is it, hey, look, if you're going to produce one piece of content this week, focus it around what you do and who you are from like a business perspective?
Yeah. That's what I'd recommend.
Just that mix is there.
Yeah. I would say if you're just going to produce one piece of content a week, have it be something businessy related, something, one of the easiest things to do is just think about, what do you have going on this week, and talk about it. Hey, I've got relocation clients coming in. This is what this looks like. This is how I get ready for it. I've got a listing presentation. This is what a listing presentation is. Like, just kind of taking people behind the scenes. I think your other stuff, the baseball stuff, the working out, like, that's all the stuff that is relatable. And that stuff I think is awesome for like Instagram stories or Facebook stories, or even reels too. You can post that but it's sort of like filler content, right?
Yeah, okay.
It's that sort of relatable in between content that, 'cause we always say people do business with people we know, like, and trust and relate to. So for sure. I think adding that in is key. And I would say too, with a helpful tip, if I can just say one thing that I think is important.
Please. Yeah.
If I can give any piece of advice right now, one of the biggest shifts we're seeing with content is not just 3 tips for this and 5 ways to do this. It's, let me tell you, if my mom was moving, this is the advice I would give her. If my best friend was selling her house, oh my gosh, you got to do this. It's more of this, like, let me give you a hot take. Let me give you my unpopular opinion. Let me tell you exactly what my feeling is about something. And I think, I don't know if you're seeing this, David, but this is a big shift in just breaking through sort of this content noise of just like, instead of this sea of sameness, sharing an opinion, sharing like just a little bit more personal, almost like you're FaceTiming somebody.
I would go the distance and add into that. And I was saying that to somebody yesterday, I think. Anyways, it's, hey, just wanted to come on and say, and it's like, I know you're here. You don't have to tell me that you just wanted to come on.
Right.
And I think a lot of people do that in the sense of almost going like, I don't know what else to say, and I want to make an excuse why I'm here.
Yeah.
Actually, funny today, I put up a story and I said something along the lines. I'm like, okay, so a lot of people have trouble like getting on video, and if you have trouble getting on video because you don't know what to say, the reality is right now, I really don't know what to say. I don't even know what I'm saying. I'm just kind of saying to show you how comfortable you can be to say something. So, anyways, good morning, have a nice day. It was so random, but it also very much is in an effort to help people break the ice to the simplicities of, look.
Yeah.
Break the ice,
get
comfortable, do it. Yeah. And the more you do it, as you said, with consistency, the better you're going to get at it. Now, I just before we move off that topic of the tip, because moreover, from an action step perspective, if I was like, all right, Katie and David said today that if I'm, getting prepared for some relocation, clients or listing presentation, that I should like do a quick video.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting there in the moment. I heard you. I got it. I get it. What do I do? It's like, well, we just said record a video.
Yeah, right.
What do I do? Like, and I'm not saying go through like an hour explanation on obviously, but Is it just literally pick up the phone, talk to the camera, show the listing presentation, or show the clients, or just tell the story? Like, just so that they've got something they can go, oh, that's not as hard as I thought it was.
Yeah. It's on. No, that's a great question. I'm sure there's people thinking, what do I do? Do I do what, is there an app? Honestly, I record most of my video just using my like the camera video, whatever the app is, the photo app.
That personalized selfie stick right there, right?
Exactly. Like I don't have I'm pretty low tech, honestly. Like I'm using earbuds, like, corded headphones right now. Like I'm pretty low tech. Like, so yeah, I would say open up your phone, turn on the camera mode, turn on yourself, and either hold it, or like if like right now I'm using a laptop, like if you want to prop it up on your laptop, if you don't want to hold it, that's fine. And then just think about a little bit of what you want to say. The formula I usually give people is like, tell them like right out of the gate what you're going to say, and then say who you are, and then say a tip, and then wrap it up. So for example, if I was sharing a listing presentation, I might start off and say something like, have you ever wondered what a listing presentation is? Hey everyone, I'm Katie Lance. I'm going to share with you really quick, like what this looks like. Okay, this is what it looks like, and this is what I do. And I'm just sharing a little bit behind the scenes. Hey, if you're curious about that, let me know in the comments below. Right. Simple. So it's like what it is you're talking about, who you are, why it matters, and then just some sort of simple, hey, if you're interested or curious about more, like and comment below.
And I don't need to create it. I don't need to edit anything in terms of like show them an image of the listing presentation or anything. No, seriously. Like
you can get fancy at some point, and there are apps that are really easy to do. But like if you're just starting out, that's all we're talking about. Like, and then I would say look at the more you do it, the more you can get good at like looking at how long it's recording. Because I always try to look and I try to record a lot of stuff under 60 seconds. Sometimes I do longer than that, but with the iPhone, at least, I'm sure Androids do this. It'll show you how long you've been recording. So then you just, okay, cool. But 45 seconds, stop.
Totally. Yeah. Cool. Okay.
And then, again, the more you do it, the better you get. I can always tell agents who are uncomfortable because they don't even know where to look on the phone. And this isn't a shame to anybody, but you gotta like literally practice opening up the camera, looking at it, going, oh, like getting comfortable with how you look, like which angle looks best, like that's sort of part of the process. And the more you do it, it's like a muscle, it's like the gym, the easier it gets.
It's so true.
First time you go to the gym, you're like, what does this machine do? Right? This is the same thing with the camera. So the more you do it, the faster you get to.
And, I'll add on to that because as you bring up the gym, I could tell you that for me, when I first started going, I actually went in there with a routine. I spoke to a buddy of mine who goes regularly, and I said, hey, give me the step-by-step. What exercise? Okay, you're going to want to do these, one day, that the other day, like the different muscle groups, and you go. And then at that point, I did my own research through the Instagrams, and I was like, okay, show me exercises for this and that. And I started to literally, I created a checklist for myself that said, this is the exercise I'm doing, and this is the weight I'm going to do, this is how many reps and sets and whatever else. And I would go in, and every time I went in, I would literally take that note and I'd bring it back up to the top because I knew it was like leg day on Monday or whatever. And I'd be like, what exercise am I doing? Then I'd watch the growth of the actual weight that I'm able to do. And now instinctively, because I've been doing that for a number of years, I don't even look at the note anymore because I just know what I have to do. But it started with documenting the process so I could look at the check. Same thing with the podcast, Katie.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. I needed to remember how to press play and press record and what to do. And now it's like, close your eyes and everything just kind of happens.
Totally.
Because you're in a rhythm. Right.
Totally. I have a few of those cheat sheets myself when I first started doing just various parts of the business that I wasn't totally familiar with. I was like, I need a cheat sheet. So I have a few of those for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's how we learn. It's like step, then I do this. Okay, cool. And then then you get better.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go from the business tip. Okay. Because we know we're essentially suggesting like have one of those a week. There's the content you could feed out to basically your feed and sort of build MindShare around your personal brand. What about when I'm out and about? How do I keep social media top of mind so that I know, why or when or even how to, sort of capture those personal moments in life as part of my content strategy? Because I know it's awkward. Like I went to the movies the other day with Jennifer and the kids. We went to go see Captain America, by the way.
Nice.
And we went to the theater, and like at one point I'm like, oh, I'm going to, do a quick selfie of us because they were like in the VIP chairs and the big loungers.
Yeah.
And I pull out the camera, like, it's dark in here. This is not going to work. And I'm not turning on the flash. Forget it. Then you're walking out and you're walking up the steps. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to take a random picture of us walking up the stairs. That doesn't do anything.
Right.
And then at the end of it, you're like, okay, well, I didn't. Not that I had to, okay? Let's just preface that too. It's like you don't but I didn't capture the moment. And at
Mhm.
least for me, I would suggest, like, and I know for you, it's top of mind.
Sure.
We're always
Yeah.
kind of creatively thinking about it, and we're so used to this and the way we roll with it that we can just do it any moment. But there's a lot of folks that again would go, yeah, it didn't happen. I didn't think
Mhm.
about it. I didn't know. So again, I'll bring that back and say again, how do I keep social media top of mind for those moments, and how do I execute? And I
Yeah.
get that that could be a complete training. So again, today's is condensed, but
The cliff notes, yeah.
yeah,
The short version,
yeah,
yeah. Well, I agree with what you said a second ago. Like, you don't have to capture everything, but I have felt that way too, where you do something and you're like, wait, I didn't capture it. Does it mean it didn't happen? Yeah, it still happened.
no,
I
it
didn't-
didn't. I didn't see it.
exactly. I didn't see it on your story. What's going on? But to your point, I hear from a lot of people who are, they'll say, I'll see things like, oh, I forgot to do this. Oh, I had this client event. I totally didn't even think about it. So I
Right.
think, I think part of it is, and I'm not sure really the best advice I can give other than you got to think about it ahead of time, I mean, and it's sort of part of a habit, I think, just like anything else, once you do it, it becomes easier to think about it. I mean, one tip I would say is you don't have to post in the moment. I think there's a lot of pressure to,
Great
you're out and
point. Yep.
about or you're with a client. Do I need to post right now? I very rarely actually post in the moment. So for me, when I'm either out with family stuff and I know I want to kind of document it, or business stuff, maybe I'm at a speaking gig or I'm meeting up with some of our academy members or something, I always think like, what do I want to capture? I try to just think about it ahead of time of like, okay, what do I want to capture? And I try to proactively, take some pictures, take some video. I think there's a balance between like, you want to be in the moment, so I never want to be that person in the corner, like,
It's true though.
so I try to do it kind of naturally, as you're having conversations with people. Like at the end of a conversation, it's really easy to say, hey, let's take a quick selfie really quick, You don't want to be awkward about it. I think it's really great with video to have a lot of little video clips. You don't have to necessarily be like, and here I am at the house, right? Like you could just like sort of take a little 5-second video. And, a lot of these little clips you could easily put into reels and maybe add a little bit of music or a little bit of text and it becomes something cool that you do later when you're at home, not necessarily,
Mhm.
as you're out and about. So I just think a big part of it is you've got to be proactive and just really start to like make it a habit. And if you are at the point where it's not a habit, maybe you start thinking ahead, going, okay, what do I have going on this week? What's coming up Monday through Friday? Okay, cool. What are some opportunities to take pictures or some videos? And maybe you start to make yourself a little checklist, just like you and I were talking about, until it becomes more of a habit.
I think again, this comes back to building out the habit. It comes back to the consistency, and it
Mm-hmm.
comes back to what you said a moment ago around, finding the right camera angle and kind of what you kind of like. And
Yeah.
I think in that it is, if we go action step again for everybody tuned in, it's like, first put it in your calendar so you see the word social media. And I do that because it
Mm-hmm.
all for me, Katie, it makes sure that I'm actually not going back to social a million times a day, but I'm being
Yeah.
strategic about my time with it. And you and
Mm-hmm.
I both are we've got a presence out there on social. There's a thought there though from some people that maybe like you're living your life on social, and by no
Mm-hmm.
means is that the reality of it all.
Right.
However, action step trigger is I see it in the schedule every
Mm-hmm.
day.
Mm-hmm.
So then I know sort of it's just a top of mind thing for me throughout a day. Now, again, you and I think about it differently because we've done it so many times. But for the person who's going, well, where do I find that moment to do? And
Mm-hmm.
then again, wrapping up a lot of what we have already said today is just start taking the photos, just start
Yeah.
taking the video.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do go back home later on, after you've left whatever it was you're doing, so you could be in the moment while you're doing it, go
Mm-hmm.
back to the pictures and look at them. Are they quote unquote post worthy? And again,
Mm-hmm.
there's no such thing as perfection. So I don't want to say they got to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But do you like the lighting?
Mm-hmm.
Was the camera angle right? Was there something in the background that maybe shouldn't have been there? Like, it's just looking for those little things that you might go, hmm. And again, done is better than perfect. You and I know
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
That said, it's that thing of looking at it and going, let me now look at my pictures and go, what did I like? What didn't I like? And now I'm going to know for next time what I
Right.
can do.
Yeah.
Same thing with when we go to baseball, Joshua and I, and he's working out and I'm there just as his dad, like throwing baseballs to him or whatever, we'll set up the
Mm-hmm.
tripod because he likes to see some of his swing patterns and he likes to analyze what he's doing,
Mm-hmm.
body posture, whatnot. And so in the same breath, I'm capturing all this content. Now
Mm-hmm.
we've got, 20 minutes worth of video clips that we'll dumb down into like 60 to 90 seconds,
Mm-hmm.
right? By taking these little 2 or 3 or 4 second clips and kind of just blending things together. And now you got this fun little highlight reel of like tonight's practice kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just having fun with it, but again, through reviewing the video that was taken, reviewing the photos that were taken over time and doing consistently, you'll start
Mm-hmm.
to find what you like doing and what you don't like doing,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And a lot of our lives are just, there's a lot of habits and just sort of routines. I mean, even as a realtor, yeah, you're working with different people and different clients, but there's a lot of stuff that just kind of comes up time and time again. So if you can get yourself into a habit of like, okay, when I have a new listing, this is what I'm going to do on social. When I'm doing an open house, like I want to make sure I'm capturing a story, I'm doing this or that. Like same thing with baseball. Like I go to a baseball game, I know there's always a couple shots I'm going to take because I like
Mhm.
to get some shots of, my kid pitching and,
Of course.
it's just, you start to kind of get yourself into that routine. Which I think is key. For me, one of the things I try to do is think about what's the story. Like if I'm going to post photos or videos afterwards, I just like to think about, well, what's the story? And the story is, maybe it's the picture of the sign as you're walking in for a venue. It's the group shot. It's maybe, a few selfies. It's what did the cake look like? And, just kind of thinking about that. And to your point, the more you do it, the more you can look back and go, oh, I got that one, or I didn't get that picture, or whatever, again, the better
Okay,
you
so let me
get.
ask you that for a second then. As you bring that up, I think that's a great point, the way you said, think about the story, and I get
Mm-hmm.
it. Do you, typically speaking, there's the sign, then there's the walking, then there's the pitching, then there's the win, then there's the
Mm-hmm.
cheering, let's just whatever, a bunch of different clips. But
Sure.
um, in your world, like as Katie, would you take that and turn that into a one kind of edited, maybe 30-second video for a story, or would you
Mm-hmm.
post the individual photo? Do you do both? I know we could answer that and say it doesn't really matter. Just put it up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
I'm just curious from a execution, because again, some people are going to look and go, "Oh my God, I'm going to overcomplicate this up here," when it really doesn't
Mm-hmm.
need to be that complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it probably depends on what it is. If it's just something with family or kids, oftentimes it's just, or whatever's easiest, right? Like I'll be like, I'm just going to throw up these 5 pictures and 6 videos and not even worry about it because I just want to get them out there and I'm excited to share them, right?
Yeah.
I feel like for business, I tend to be a little bit more, I wouldn't say thoughtful, but I tend to think a little bit more about what I'm going to do with the content. And I tend to, for business type stuff, just as an example, like you, I travel a lot, right, for
Yeah.
speaking. And so I'm always trying to capture different types of content. And so oftentimes that content turns into a few different posts. Like, for example, I might post that same day of an event, a bunch of pictures that I loved. And then maybe a day or two later, I'll do a reel with some fun music, just like a bunch of clips. And then a couple days later, I might do kind of a day in the life where you hear me kind of doing like a voiceover saying, okay, first I did this and then I did that. And it's all kind of the same content. It's just packaged differently. And I'm not saying
Hmm.
everybody needs to do that. It's a little bit more
Hmm.
advanced, but if you take it to like a listing, it's the same thing. You've got photos, that could be one post. You've got some behind the scenes, that could be a story. You've got some little clips that you could also put together into a kind of a cool little, video, maybe using CapCut or Canva or something. You could do a voiceover at some point. Like they're all similar but different. And it goes back to what we talked about earlier. People don't see everything. So if you're trying to use social media for business and you want to talk
Yeah.
about business, it's like, I've got this content. Yes, done is better than perfect. At least get it out. Like, at least just post it, the photos and videos. Okay, that's sort of step one. But if you're at a higher level, like, could we repurpose it? Could we take that, post that today, 3 days later, post a reel, 3 days later, post a different reel? Like, I think we're afraid we're going to annoy people or something, or people don't notice. I can't even remember what I had for breakfast 3 days ago,
I know,
let alone
right?
what I
It's so
saw on
true,
someone's
though. It
feed.
is
So,
so true. It's a great point you bring
does
up
that
about
answer your
that.
question though? Or that was
No, it
probably
totally
longer than you
does.
asked.
It does. No, it does, and it's super helpful for people because again, there's a lot of thinking about that. Like I'll come right back to business for just like literally briefly and go.
Mhm.
If we said business posts like a rapid fire, so we talked about a tip, talked about listing, we talk about possibly a story with some clients. What else do you recommend from like that's maybe not like come buy this house today. Like, it's not
Mhm.
overly salesy, but is there anything else that you recommend as a best practice that would help me grow my brand from like as a salesperson perspective?
Mhm. I think this is kind of the stuff that you can't always plan for, but if you can share something funny or relatable,
Okay, like that.
um,
Yeah.
you want to be careful. I think the best way to be funny or relatable is sort of self-deprecating humor,
Oh my God, I know,
right? We don't
right?
want to necessarily poke fun at other people, but I have found when I'm just like, I cannot believe I did this. Like, I mean, I remember a couple years ago, I walked out of the house and I was like, something's off. And I looked down and I realized I had two different pairs of shoes on.
Yeah.
And of course, social media brain, I was like, oh, this is a great post, And so we can't plan for things like that. But I think as things come up, I think we're so worried, like, oh, I don't want to look professional. I don't want to look unprofessional.
Hmm.
But there's just something kind of funny about just
Real
being
and
real and
organic.
real and
Yeah,
organic. So even
totally.
though it's like, what do your cats have to do with, business? Well, it's a relatable thing. People talk about my cats all the time, or like my coffee cups. I post my coffee cup every morning. What does that have to do with
I
business?
did notice the
It's
Back to Future coffee cup. I did pick up on that.
one of my favorite movies and one of my favorite musicals.
See, but there you go. Now we could talk about why is it one of your favorite movies and musicals and everything else, and
Yeah.
we could start going through the different episodes and whatever, or like the different, and I mean, we can go down a rabbit hole on Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And by the way, anybody who's not watching live, she's holding a Back to the Future coffee mug. I'd better
Right, right.
reference that so people are like, "Whoa, where did
Exactly.
that come from?"
It might be backwards in the camera,
No,
but
but the whole thing being, it's like if I'm sitting there going, "Okay, let's talk about that." Now it's relatable,
yeah.
right? And there's
Yeah.
something to talk about. It's the same reason why I will post on my Instagram when we're cooking ribs,
Yeah. Yeah.
when we're out, as a family, and when I'm on a stage and when we're doing a podcast. Like, what you see is
Hmm.
what you get,
Yeah.
and that's what we keep trying to put through.
Yeah.
Um,
It's just
again,
relatable, and I can't not emphasize that enough. And that's not the stuff that's on my content calendar. Like, it's just part of it is just looking at your life as content and thinking about things that
yep.
make you smile. It doesn't have to be super private. I think there's a big difference between being relatable and personal versus super private. You
Hmm.
and I are very public, but I know there's a lot you don't share. There's a lot I don't
Of
share, and
course.
that's totally fine. So
Well, here, Valentine's Day, we went out as a family for dinner, and that's how we roll these days. Nice and romantic with two children at the table.
love
Well, we went and took a family photo. The restaurant was doing like these photos. So we took one as we left.
it.
A friend of ours owned the restaurant, and we posted up the photo. And I didn't tell you what I ate, didn't tell you what we talked about. I didn't tell you about any of that. I just kind of
Hmm.
showed you me and my family. And like,
Yeah.
again, there was some good interaction there.
Hmm.
So relatable is important. Now, you just brought up content calendar. And again, I know this could be a 4-hour long conversation on content calendar.
Yes.
But the question, moreover, Katie, comes like, how do I stay consistent
Hmm.
with the process? And again, I thought we would just pick your brain here. And I know that I am incredibly consistent. I know that over the years, I've learned a ton from you about how to remain consistent, been able to repetition and consistency, implement and execute. Again,
Hmm.
there's a lot of folks that aren't. What would be that sort of that, again, kind of quick tips around, like, here's how you begin to be consistent, and then here's how
Yeah.
you remain consistent.
Well, you said something earlier about how you have social media on your calendar, and
Yep.
I 100% agree. I think you've got to schedule out some sort of time. I usually recommend at least a few times a week where you're going to pop into social, check your comments, respond to comments, engage with what other people are posting, because I also think that's super important. Be a noticer. I always tell my two teenage boys, notice what's happening around you. And I would say the same thing on social. So getting it in your schedule at least like 3 to 5 times a week. Maybe it is every day, in the morning, evening, whatever time works for you, but getting it on your schedule for that. And then also getting it on your schedule for when you're going to create content. A lot of people sort of create in the moment, which is fine as you're out and about. But I really, really believe in like long-term sustainability. Since about 2017, maybe before this, but this is as early as I can remember, I have been setting aside a couple hours every single month to batch a lot of content, which
Mm-hmm.
basically means I set aside a couple hours and I set up my camera and I record 5 to 10 pieces of content all in one batch. I don't post it all right away,
Mm-hmm.
but I find that I'm in the flow. It's kind of like if I'm going to write thank you notes, I'm not just going to write one, I'll write a bunch of cards, or I'm not just going to make one phone call or knock on one door. Like you're in the flow of doing it. And that has been a huge sustainable way of doing it. And the reason I'm able to create a lot is because I have a spreadsheet with a bunch of content ideas that is basically another thing that I would say is just brainstorm, frequently asked questions, things that come up all the time as you're out and about. I just have sort of a whole laundry list, and I do have it organized in kind of a calendar. I think if you're at the beginning stages, just get yourself a list. So when you're like, okay, cool, I've got an hour, I'm going to record, you can pull up your list and be like, all right, out of these topics, here's 5 I can bang out right now, that I'm comfortable talking about. So obviously there's a lot that we could talk about with that.
Yeah, no, totally. And I listen, I'm with you there. Like, I know for me, and I've been very transparent in sharing this with everybody, like this show, the preparation. So today we're recording live. We syndicate on Fridays, and I know anybody can listen to it anytime. The reality is it was actually prepared this past Monday.
Yeah.
Right. The same way that like my Monday video that we've been doing for 457 Mondays in a row, that Monday video for like next Monday was recorded literally just before we did the podcast. And it's in there for a certain block of time on the same day every week, unless of course I'm on a stage or doing something else there. That block of time is hard coded in the schedule because there's certain pieces like there's social that's being created. There's emails that are being created. There's a whole bunch of content being created so that the following week or weeks, there's not a lot of thinking or scrambling, but in comes the consistency of.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, choosing a day, a time of the week that you're going to record and having a bunch of ideas. I know years ago when I heard you say that, it's been a huge help. And that is a big part of how we get to consistency. Now, we earlier touched on what platforms to be on, et cetera. Again, a sort of another quick question of like, are we good to double down, triple down, quadruple down? Like I can take the same video that I put to Insta, put it up to TikTok, put it up to Facebook. I know there's a whole wealth of people that'll say like, oh no, TikTok is about this and Instagram's about that. And then you go, oh my God. So if I want to post a piece of content, I actually got to do 5 pieces of content and be on 5. Like it's crazy.
I think, I don't know, maybe I'll get roasted by some other social media person for saying this, but I think it's fine to post the same thing in 5 different places. I mean, one thing that I do sometimes is I might tweak the caption just a little bit, kind of depending on what the platform is. If I have time, but I think it's fine. I think people are catching stuff in all different platforms, and again, even your biggest fans don't see everything. So I think you want to cast the widest net possible. And there's actually a tool I've been using for a couple years now. I don't know can I mention it?
Go for it.
That's okay. All right. I'm not affiliated or anything, but I've been using it. This tool called repurpose.io.
Okay.
Which I'm not affiliated or anything, but basically the way it works is you upload a piece of content somewhere and then you can set up these sort of parameters to say, okay, well, once I post it here, I wanted to also upload here, and here. It's kind of like if this, then that. If I upload to Instagram, it'll also upload to TikTok or YouTube or wherever. So, and you can do it manually or you can do it automatically. And it's just nice because it's, it's an easy way to sort of automate some of that.
Okay, so hold on a second. The question I do have for you then is, so you'll put it up to this one platform, which will then put it up to the different platforms. Obviously, the fact that you do it, you believe it's okay. It's not going to mess with the algorithms.
Yeah.
And then what about the sort of the captions on the thumbnail? Because like I noticed, and I know from just best practice, let's call it, but I also went, obviously, let's say your accounts, if I go your TikTok and your Insta, when I go to TikTok, those captions look very TikTok. When I go to Insta, they're very Insta.
Yeah.
But they may be the same video with the same caption. Right?
Yeah.
Is that app, is that platform changing the style of the caption for you as well?
It's not. It's basically wherever the video is sort of natively, it's going to pull everything. It's going to pull the captions, the music, the filters, whatever you'd like. But with repurpose, you can set it up automatically, or you can actually set it up manually, where you can actually go in and if you want to kind of tweak some things and sort of change it up for TikTok versus Instagram, you can do that. So yeah, there's kind of pros and cons. I mean, I agree, yes, certain things on TikTok look like TikTok, certain things on Instagram look like Instagram.
Yeah.
I just think for the sake of efficiency, it's it's great to just be able to be like,
Okay.
and it's out.
Okay. Okay. So here, let's talk about efficiency or inefficiency. I don't know, and this could be debated.
Yeah.
AI.
Mm-hmm.
The how could I be strategic with AI in using it as a co-pilot,
Mm-hmm.
but still remaining authentic to my voice, my opinions, and who I am? Because I believe what's
Yeah.
happening now is a lot of people to go in, they will prompt a ChatGPT type of system. It'll give them a script. They will copy paste that script into an email and hit send. And I'm thinking, whoa, don't do that. Make it sound like you really understand the topic. And if somebody ever asks you about it, you better know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Much the same, it's got to sound like you.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that it's like taking a lot of the thinking out of the way for people, which is not the best thing. Like these brains need to work, not work. That's it though. Like just what's your thoughts on the AI revolution when it's coming around with this and how people are taking advantage of it and maybe the way it's taking that authenticity out of things?
Mm-hmm.
Advice, thoughts, opinions on this?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be careful. I think a lot of people just are like, oh, this is great. It's going to do it all for me. And they're not stopping and reading what it actually sounds like, because, and I do this all the time. I mean, I use ChatGPT often for coming up with ideas or helping me write captions or descriptions, but I still, or emails, and it's like, you have to still stop. I often will read it out loud. Because when you read it out loud, you can quickly be like, that doesn't sound like me, or I would never say it that way. I think there's kind of a couple big areas with AI. I think one is in video editing. I think there's some great video editing apps that are out there. Like I use captions, captions.ai to edit a lot of my videos because there's some easy AI tools. If you're recording that 60-second video talking about a listing presentation or whatever, captions.ai and hit just a couple buttons and it's going to trim out the pauses. It's going to put some really fun captions on the screen. It'll take out background noise if there's like, the air conditioning's on or something, right?
Yep.
And it's done. I don't have to learn video editing. I mean, I do know how to video edit, but for someone who's like, I don't want to spend an hour editing every video, AI, I think, is a huge time saver. We're seeing that with CapCut. There's some AI tools built into that. But I also think
you're literally uploading the video to it and it's going to like throw captions in and cut everything up for you and basically be like, here you go, Katie.
Yeah, exactly.
You pay for that or no?
The Captions app, yes, you do pay for it.
Okay.
I think there's like an annual fee, but you can,
they
have like a trial, there's like a 7-day trial or something, but it's fantastic. Yeah. You upload it and you're like, there's a little AI button that says, would you like to detect pauses? Yes, I would. Click. Okay. You have 6 pauses.
Cool.
Would you like to take them out? Yes. Right?
Interesting.
Take them out. Would you like to put some AI images over? Sure. Let me see them first. Oh, I like this one. I don't like this one. Awesome. You want to take out this back? Like, there's like 4. You can even do the sort of this auto zoom where it'll sort of auto zoom in and out for you. And it's all done through AI. And it'll also even rate a title, captions, and hashtags, which I always feel like are about 50% of the way there, right? I never like blindly copy and paste it. Yeah. But I find that for a lot of people who aren't marketers, having something to start with and be like, okay, that's okay, but now let me kind of tweak it so it sounds like me,
Yeah, look, I mean, my thoughts are it's a fantastic co-pilot. I think it's incredible. It's somebody to bounce ideas back and forth with. It's funny how we say somebody. It's a machine. It's whatever. But it's seriously like you can have that back and forth conversation with it to get a thought created, get it expanded, get it more polished. I know for myself when I see content that's coming through, you can tell it's AI.
Yeah.
In some cases, and that's when people are, for lack of better words, lazy about how they approach the use of it, right? And again, I think it's a co-pilot. I am really coming at the industry in a big way of being very weary about how much we put AI in between us and the people we work with.
Yeah.
We're already questioned all the time about, what kind of commission do we charge? And, oh my God, can you do better? And, why do I need a realtor? And like people are hating on the industry because there's money to be made here.
Sure.
And sometimes there's that question of like, well, what do you do? Are you really worth all that money?
Right.
And look, we could sit here and prove value all day long about, what a realtor's worth is to a transaction, et cetera. That said, I'm again, really trying to hone in on the message to the industry right now of, just be careful on how much you put it in between you and your clients, because that is, as it evolves, we don't want to phase ourselves out, through like literally creating our own demise
Yeah.
by over leveraging it and putting it again in between us and our client.
Yeah.
Now that's a whole
Absolutely.
different conversation, but I wanted to get your take on sort of leveraging it from a content creation perspective. And I do agree with you. There's some fantastic things that are there. Just, I always encourage people, like, put your spin on it. Make sure it's you, make sure it's real. Right.
Right.
Now you've over the sort of course of the show so far explained the, use video. Is it the be all and end all? I know Instagram kind of actually went back to kind of saying, hey, we're going to push photos as well again, because they went down a road one day at some point of like, we're going video. Now they've gone back to like, hey, photos are still a good thing.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think both are good. Both are helpful. Reels typically still are going to reach people beyond people who just know you. So if you look at, if you have a public Instagram account, which I do recommend having like a public professional or business account, and you look at your insights, your reels are typically getting seen sort of 50% people you know, 50% of people you don't know. Whereas photos, I feel like it's still more primarily people who follow you, but it depends on what the photos are, right? The thing that's sort of interesting to look at are carousel posts that aren't necessarily photos. So carousels, for anybody listening not knowing it, it's like those slideshows, right? Where you can have up to 20 photos or videos in a slideshow. And what's actually performing really well right now are sort of, I guess, again, sort of the educational or helpful tips, where we're doing this a lot. I might do a long, maybe a 5 or 6 minute detailed YouTube video sharing some tips, and then I'll take those same tips and turn them into a carousel on Canva and sort of repurpose those. And what's interesting about carousels is carousels are showing up twice as often in the news feed, because when you're on Instagram, you're seeing, oftentimes you'll see someone's carousel. If you don't click on it the first time, the next time when you're on Instagram, you'll see it again. You'll just see like the second slide in a carousel. So that's, I think, interesting. And
okay, interesting insights.
More work to do, but
oh my god, yeah. Like we've started to do it as well. Like we've gone back to doing it, where we'll take something and we'll take a video that we've recorded and turn it into a however many slides, but it's like tap, read, there's some value. Tip number 1, tip number 2. And it's, it's another way to engage people. It's education.
Yeah. And that's a good way to use a tool like ChatGPT. I mean, I'll just give you a quick tip. We will record that 7-minute YouTube video. I'll get it transcribed. I'll take the whole transcription and put it into ChatGPT and say, I just recorded this video. I am going to create a carousel with 10 slides based on this content. Can you lay out a title for each slide, 2 or 3 simple bullet points for each slide, and a compelling call to action based on the video? And so I could probably do it just from, knowing what I do anyways, but having ChatGPT kind of give you that sort of outline,
it speeds it up for you.
It speeds it up. Exactly. Yep. And I'm still looking at it going, no, I want to emphasize this versus this or whatever. Like I'm still not blindly copying and pasting. It's a time saver. So, and then I'll say, okay, and based on all this, can you write a compelling caption that I could use? And the goal is to get people from my Instagram back over to my YouTube video. So it's just not losing yourself. As you said, you're still the pilot of the show.
Right. Is
there a tiny way to speed up the process a little bit?
There you go. Okay. I like that. So we've talked a lot about the content creation and the platforms and the ideas, and I think it's been fantastic. I'm curious from a daily non-negotiables, from a social media habit, sort of a strategy, let's call it, not have a strategy. What would you say is at the top of the list for those?
I think on a daily basis, just showing up, engaging, interacting. I mean, one of the things I've been doing for years is something called Focus 5, where I take 5 minutes, I scroll through my feed, and I look for 5 posts that really speak to me. It's not that I'm following 5 new people a day, but I just look for 5 things that really stand out. And I try to not just like it, but leave a meaningful comment. A meaningful comment is usually at least a sentence or 2. So it might be, oh, happy birthday, David. It looks like you're having an awesome day. What do you have going on today? That's a lot more meaningful.
As opposed to just happy birthday, David. Right. HBD is oh my God, unbelievable.
Or a bunch of emojis, right?
Yeah.
So that's my non-negotiable. I've been doing Focus 5 for years. I do it every morning as I'm drinking my coffee before I open up my email. And it's just this idea of you give back before you ask for something, and you engage, you interact, you see what's going on in the world around you. That's a non-negotiable. I'm also always checking my DMs and checking my comments. And the more you put out helpful content, the more DMs and comments you're going to get. If you were at the beginning stages, you're not going to have a whole lot of engagement because you're probably not putting out a lot of engaging content. But the whole point is to get engagement. So responding to comments, responding to DMs, it's just a sort of non-negotiable every day. I may not be posting every single day, but I at least every day taking a few minutes just to see what's going on, in the world.
I've used this a few times lately. Somebody else brought it up on the show, but it was, be interested, not interesting.
Yeah.
Right. I really like that one. So how much time would you say in a day are you on social? You're like, Dave, I built a business out of this, man. Like, come on, what do you think? This is where we live over here.
Quite a lot. I mean, I wouldn't say it's my whole life, but I'm in the business. So I'm in the business of social media. I'll give that as an excuse.
Okay, fine. Not you. How about your clients, the people you teach? Like obviously they've got a lot of hats they wear on a regular. And as a business owner, even for yourself, who is a business owner, you got a team, you got people there. Yeah. It just like it's what's the recommendation that you've got to people when it comes to time on social? Half an hour, an hour. I mean, is there something you say to people?
Yeah, I would say when you're on social media for business, if you can carve out 20 or 30 minutes a day, I think the challenge is social media is also a place where people unwind and they relax. And as they're watching TV, they are scrolling. So what ends up happening is you look at your screen time and you're like, oh my gosh, how did I spend 2 hours on Instagram today? When really for business, you were on for like 20 minutes. So
yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to separate the two, but I would say, 20 or 30 minutes a day, engaging, interacting, commenting, and then probably an hour or two once a week where you're setting aside time to either create your content or edit content.
Okay. I like this.
Schedule some of your posts. So yeah, it's like anything else. You've got to make it you got to put it on your calendar. If it's not on the calendar, it's not going to happen.
It's true. And as we talk about time and we think about, and we said like, Insta was photos to begin with, then went to video, and then it's like, hey, we'll show you some photos again, and the carousels have made a comeback. And we know that every day, and I think we joked about this, I don't know if it was either when we first got on the show today or before we got on air, but it's like what happened today was very different from what they did yesterday and like what might they do tomorrow. But when it comes to the trends, should we be really working to keep up with those? Like, what's your advice to anybody who's like trying to keep up with the latest and greatest? I mean, do it. Time waster thoughts, opinions?
I mean, I think trends can be fun. Like you look at like trending music. You see this a lot on TikTok where certain songs just take off. And
oh my God, Kendrick Lamar is like going like this right now.
I know. I'm like, people are still talking about the Super Bowl, right? Or like I'm a huge Wicked fan. All that music is like all over my feed, right now to the Oscars and everything. So yeah, I think there's something to be said about, if you see something fun and it resonates with you, sure, use it in a video. If you want to jump on one of those trends, it can't hurt you by any means. I mean, what happens with a trend is something that's trending, whether it's a music or something, some sort of activity that might be trending or dance or whatever, it's trending for a reason. So if you jump on that bandwagon, oftentimes it's sort of like pouring gasoline on the fire. It could give you a little bit of a lift. I don't think it's necessarily the end all and be all. I think, especially for real estate folks, I think it's not the sexy answer, but just staying consistent. And the reality is with real estate content, the truth is it's not always the most exciting thing, which means you're not always going to get thousands and thousands and millions of views, but it's okay. Like you're putting out a lot of small breadcrumbs over the course of time. You got to be in this for the long haul. And I don't really think the goal is to go viral. A lot of the people I've seen go viral have gone viral for the most random reasons, has nothing
or
to
maybe
do
the
with
wrong
business.
reasons.
Or the wrong reasons. Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
okay. Here, talk to me about measuring success then. Like, because you nailed a great point right there. And I think it's important to really emphasize is that you're not in this game, like you're not looking to go viral. Yeah. It might be nice and it might feel good to get a video that just like totally smashes it, but how do you measure the success? How do you know it's working? Yeah. Or do you just like execute, don't worry about perfection, and then be consistent?
I think there's a little bit of a balance. I think you can't be looking at the metrics every single day. You'll drive yourself crazy. And totally. I think we probably both have had this experience where you put out something and you're like, oh, this is going to crush it. Like there's like crickets.
Did anybody see
nothing
this?
happened, right? It's like,
Yeah.
are you kidding me? And then the most random thing that you spent no amount of time on, like, takes off, right? For whatever reason, which is ridiculously annoying. But so to your question,
I'm not the only one.
Exactly. So it's like sometimes there's just no rhyme or reason, and that's why I always say, like, it's not just oh, I have to create a video. No, you got to create a lot of videos. Like, just put out a lot of content, because at some point something is going to stick. Trust me. And it's a numbers game, right? I do think you can look at analytics. My favorite analytics, honestly, is looking at my Instagram analytics. I think that's a great barometer. You can look at your insights and see not just reach or views, but engagement. What type of content are people saving? Are they sharing? Are they liking? Are they commenting? I typically look at my analytics once a quarter. I kind of wait till the end of the quarter and look back. Sometimes periodically I'll do it, if I'm super curious. But I find looking back, it's like, okay, what did well in the last 90 days? Because if I look back 2 years, it's like, well, what did well 2 years ago may not be relevant today.
Fair.
But like, what did I do in the last 90 days? Okay, cool. That really resonated. Could I recreate that? Could I double down on that? Could I do that same idea with maybe a little bit of a different topic or spin? So
you mentioned sharing. And the insights, it's like, I'll see people like, it shows X amount of shares. And you're like, oh, cool. Like, I wonder who shared it.
Yeah. It
ain't showing you, but it doesn't really show you who shared it. It just tells you that people shared it.
Right. Well, part of it depends on their settings, right? So if they're sharing it and they have a private account, you're not going to see it. If it's public, you'll see it. But
so look, this is all like, there's so much to do with this game. And it's funny that, like, however many years later, there's still so much, unknown about it, which presents a ton of opportunity. But like, should I just hire somebody to do this for me?
No.
Okay, thank you.
No, would you hire someone to, like, I don't know,
go
take
to
your
a party
client out to dinner?
Exactly.
Yeah. Now you can, like, we've worked with some great video editors over the years.
Yep.
We've had some great folks on our team over the years who've helped with certain, like, copywriting and things like that. But like, social media is social, and real estate's a people business. So you don't have to be like a super techie person. You just got to show up. You got to be human, engage, interact, just like you would at a cocktail party. You'd connect with people. You would chat with people. You wouldn't run in the party and say, I'm a realtor. Or maybe you would. I don't know. Hopefully people wouldn't. So you don't have to be on it all day. You don't have to be,
you gotta be there.
You gotta be there. For sure.
So, okay, here, some almost rapid fires here, but my personal favorite, when it comes to social stories, I love Instagram stories. I just find them easy. I find them fun. I find them raw. I find them very real and authentic. What's this best? And to me, it's a great hack, because if you're consistent with stories and people start tapping on them every time somebody opens up Instagram, for the most part, your little pink circle is going to show up at the top of their Instagram, and you paid nothing for that except for the fact that you were consistent with your content. To me, when I talk about building MindShare with social, that's my favorite hack. Have you got one that you also recommend?
I mean, I think that's a great hack, because every time you post, your little bubble gets moved to the front, and the more people interact. I would say along with that is Instagram Live. Like, the fact that you're live right now, your bubble is the first bubble on my feed right now, because so not only does Instagram Stories sort of push you top of mind, but Instagram Live. And I feel like that doesn't get as much attention as other platforms. So, I mean, that's certainly a big hack I would recommend that for anyone listening. Think about, is there an opportunity to go live? You don't have to do it all the time, but maybe just once or twice a month. It could be topics that you've already talked about on your recorded video, but now you do a live saying, hey, this month I talked about X, Y, and Z, and let's talk about it here. On Instagram Live, you can bring a guest on. I know you've got a cool, fancy setup, but you could also kind of be low key about it too. Totally. Add people,
Don't follow suit with what I'm doing or what Katie's doing. We've been doing this a long time, okay? And trust me, we still haven't perfected it. We've lost a lot, failed a lot, and learned a ton. And it seriously, and the jokes aside here, it comes back to the consistency, just the discipline to keep doing.
Yeah.
For
sure.
So what would you say to anybody who says, I can't?
I would say, well, why not? What's holding you back? I mean, if you think about it, especially, so we're not talking about brain surgery. We're talking about just use it. Like, we all have a phone. And I think sometimes we just get overwhelmed. I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? We push the wrong button. It's just like anything new, you gotta kind of just do it. Right?
Well, hey, isn't that how Nike kind of got to where Nike got to by just kind of playing that just do it game?
Yeah.
Right? Of just
Yeah.
literally just do it.
And I would say too, like, we are living in such a great time where the phones are better than ever. Even if you have a phone that's a couple years old, it's an amazing phone, right? You don't necessarily need the latest and greatest. Everything is at your fingertips. If you need to know exactly what button to push, you are a Google search away from it. And then you've got someone like me and you who can really help you with the strategy piece of it. Like, that's where I feel like I shine. Like, sure, you can email me and say, where's the button for this? And I'll tell you. You can also Google it, right? Where I think there's a huge benefit in working with like coaches and consultants right now is it's like not just in the tactical, but in the strategic, right? I think that's heads and tails, I think, so important.
So, and I know you help a ton of people on a regular basis, and I thank you because over the years you have been a huge help to me, and there's been so much learning from you around like literally these little tips and tricks that that really are super easy. The hardest part is the mental block that we put in front of ourselves, but I thank you for that because I know it's been a help to me. And I know that you've got a massive following out there of people that you've helped and that really find a lot of their successes through a lot of learnings that you've taught them. So we all thank you for that. And I'm curious to know that, as you go through your day and you're doing everything you do and you go through your week and, you've got an amazing family at home and I mean, from Disney World to baseball to, coffee mugs. I'm curious at the end of the day, when the day is over, how do you know it's been a successful day for you?
That's a really good question. Well, as corny as it sounds, I really try to start my day every morning just thinking about what I'm grateful for. And I'm not a morning person at all, which is why I'm like, it's like got the IV with the coffee happening often. So one of the things I try to do every single morning is just think about like, okay. And I have this little mantra where I say like, today's going to be a great day. And here's why. And I actually got that from another favorite show. I feel like I'm talking about Broadway a lot here, but Dear Evan Hansen is a great Broadway show. If you've never seen it, it's also a great movie. And there's this line in the movie that says, today's going to be a great day. And here's why. And I've just been saying this for the past couple of years. And I just think about, okay, it's going to be a great day. And here's why. And so at the end of the day, I'll often be in bed and thinking, okay, was it a great day? Like, what did I get done? What do I accomplish? And just giving yourself grace, Rome wasn't built in a day. So, it's like what did you get done? What are your wins personally? What are your wins professionally? I would also say too, at the end of the month, one of the things I started doing last year and I've continued to do it this year is at the very end of the month, I look back to my month before and I actually look through my camera roll and I look through my social media posts and I kind of make a list of what were my wins for our family and what were my wins professionally.
I love that.
And it's just helped me be really grateful and grounded and just grateful. So
I know it is a fantastic answer. I love the gratitude. That's how I start my day every day. And then at the end of the day, it is looking back on the day to see how much was accomplished today. And when you bring that up about the month, I love the camera roll in it because it really shows you how much you did accomplish. And there's a book that I've recommended a bajillion times, I think even on this show. It's called The Gap and the Gain. Have you ever heard of it?
I've heard of it, but I haven't read it. Yeah.
And it's to what you just said. Like it's actually takes stock of like how far you've come because we are so worried about tomorrow and what we're trying to accomplish that we often don't take a moment to go, hey, but look at me.
Yeah.
Right. And that is so in tune with even what we're talking about today with social about how we've both found our own evolution through this content strategy and through being out there online with people and how we translate that to offline. And I would say that we're both very far ahead and further ahead than many, yet there's still so much to learn. Right. And it's like, I have to take stock on how far I've come without always worrying about like where I'm going.
Right.
So I do love that answer. Katie, any final words of wisdom you want to share just before we close out today? Just anything, where could people find you? How could they connect with you? Maybe learn more from you? Just any final words before we sign off?
Sure. Yeah. Probably the best way to connect is just through my website, Katie Lance, KatieLance.com. We've got tons of free resources. You can check out our training and our academy and all the cool stuff that we've got going on. And then, on the socials, I'm at Katie Lance basically everywhere. So if you listen to this, would love to connect with anyone who's listening. I mean, send me a DM. Let me know, hey, I heard your conversation with David. So connect on social, connect on, and on our website. And I would just say, like I said earlier, I think the biggest thing I just always keep reminding myself, and I tell people all the time, again, done is better than perfect. Take action from today. As an example, pick one or two things and implement them immediately. Life is short. So, start moving forward. Don't get caught up in analysis paralysis.
Amazing. Well, we've already had some positive comments coming through today. I can see them on the various platforms we're live on right now. As always, Katie Lance talking to her about getting social smart from post to profits in business. You are always a wealth of information, a pleasure to speak with, and I can't thank you enough for all the time and the insights that you shared with us today on the MindShare podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much, David, and thanks everyone for listening.
Can't wait to see you shortly.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Katie. You've been listening to the MindShare Podcast, whether it's on your favorite podcast platform or directly from my website at mindshare101.com. While you are there, don't forget to explore how our full range of services from one-to-one coaching, the all-new MindShare Collective Group Coaching, momentum training, and our keynote speaking will take your business to the next level. Don't forget to download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle so you can build more mindshare to get more market share, as well as learn more about joining the revolution. For all inquiries, just get in touch with us today. Just before I sign off, of course, if you love the show, I mean, obviously you love the show. How could you not love the show? But seriously speaking, sincerely speaking, I would love if you could take a moment to leave a review of the podcast. Nothing less than a 5-star, like nothing. But if you can leave a review of the podcast, tell us how much you like it, liked our guest today. Of course, if you ever have suggestions for a guest or want to be a guest or topics of the show, I'm always an open door. So please reach out to me. Of course, on Instagram at David Greenspan 101 and on TikTok and Facebook at MindShare 101. Just before I sign off, I want to say a big thank you to Kit's Keep in Touch Systems, REM Magazine, and Revel Realty for their continued support of the show. This has been another episode of the MindShare Podcast. Thank you for tuning in.